The US and China are entering what many economists call a financial Cold War, a global competition not fought with armies, but with currencies, trade policy, data, and economic influence. China's rapid economic growth has narrowed the gap with the United States. As China rises, the U.S. sees not just competition, but a strategic threat to its long-standing economic dominance.
The relationship between the two nations has been shifting for decades. Key turning points, from WTO entry to the 2018 trade war, have steadily pushed the world toward financial confrontation.
The trade imbalance has long been a central issue. The U.S. imports far more from China than it exports, giving China leverage while deepening American dependence on Chinese manufacturing.
American tech giants source components and final assembly from China. This supply chain dependency is one of the critical vulnerabilities shaping today's financial tensions. Semiconductors lie at the heart of digital economies, and today most chips are produced outside both the US and China, turning Taiwan and Korea into strategic hotspots. Both nations are racing to dominate advanced technologies. Whoever controls AI, quantum computing, and communication networks will shape global standards and future economic power. For years, China held over $1 trillion in American debt. This gave China influence, but also bound the two economies together, creating mutual vulnerabilities. The dollar remains the world's dominant currency, but the yuan is rising. This financial rivalry is one of the core battlegrounds of the new economic conflict. China aims to internationalize the yuan, challenging the dollar's global dominance. More countries are engaging in yuan-based trade, reducing reliance on the U.S. financial system. The United States maintains unmatched influence through the Federal Reserve, Wall Street institutions, and a global dollar clearing system that the world depends on for trade, lending, and financial stability. China's financial system is built around state-owned banks and centralized planning. This structure enables rapid investment across Asia, Africa, and Europe through massive Belt and Road financing programs. The two nations manage monetary policy differently. The Federal Reserve uses market-based tools, while China's central bank relies heavily on targeted lending, credit guidance, and coordinated state intervention. The U.S. controls the global financial plumbing. Swift messaging, dollar clearing, and compliance rules give Washington immense leverage over any bank or nation participating in the global economy. Financial sanctions have become one of America's strongest tools. Blocking dollar access can cripple national economies, demonstrating how economic power often replaces traditional military action. Advanced chip restrictions are designed to slow China's technological rise. By limiting access to cutting-edge semiconductors, the U.S. targets industries critical to China's future competitiveness. China controls the refining of many vital rare earth minerals. These resources are essential for electronics, batteries, and defense technologies, giving Beijing leverage in global supply chains. The Belt and Road Initiative expands China's financial footprint. By funding infrastructure abroad, China gains political influence, long-term repayment ties, and access to strategic logistic routes. China has become a major global creditor. Many developing nations now owe significant debt to Chinese banks, deepening financial dependence and altering geopolitical alignments. China remains one of the largest holders of U.S. Treasury securities. This financial link ties the two powers together while simultaneously creating vulnerabilities for both sides. China is promoting yuan usage through currency swap agreements. These deals help partner nations bypass the dollar, slowly expanding China's monetary influence worldwide. Despite growing competition, the dollar still dominates global reserves. The yuan remains small, but its rapid expansion signals a long-term challenge to the financial status quo. Geopolitical tensions and rising labor costs are pushing companies to diversify away from China. This shift reduces China's export power while reshaping global manufacturing patterns. Tech competition is intensifying. Chinese companies challenge American giants in AI, cloud computing, and e-commerce, creating new arenas for economic rivalry and regulatory conflict.
Taiwan remains critical to the world's chip supply. Any disruption would affect both the U.S. and China, making semiconductor security a central issue in economic strategy.
The United States is investing heavily to rebuild semiconductor manufacturing at home. This reshoring effort aims to reduce dependence on Asia and secure technological leadership. Global trade depends on vulnerable choke points. Any disruption, whether political or military, could send shockwaves through supply chains, impacting both American and Chinese economies. Alliances define the financial battlefield. The U.S. works with NATO and G7 partners, while China strengthens ties through BRICS, the SCO, and Belt and Road networks. BRICS is expanding rapidly, giving China a platform to promote new financial systems outside U.S. control. Its growing economic weight shifts global power dynamics. Digital currencies represent the next frontier. China's digital yuan is already in public trials, while the U.S. explores digital dollar frameworks, fueling a new technological race. Capital flows between the U.S. and China remain deeply interconnected. Even as tensions rise, both economies still rely on each other through investment channels, bond purchases, and multinational corporate activity. China remains the backbone of global manufacturing. Despite diversification trends, many industries, from electronics to pharmaceuticals, still rely heavily on Chinese production capacity and its massive industrial base. For decades, China's growth outpaced the United States. But in recent years, China's economic momentum has slowed significantly, shifting expectations about long-term global power dynamics. China's property sector crisis undermines economic confidence. With massive debt, unfinished projects, and falling home prices, the sector's weakness now spills into banking and consumer spending. Currency relations are becoming increasingly strategic. The U.S. dollar's strength pressures China's exports, while China carefully manages the yuan to maintain competitiveness without triggering capital flight. A new global semiconductor map is emerging. Nations are investing aggressively to secure chip production, reducing reliance on China and reshaping the technological supply chain. Both nations dominate global trade, but China's export engine makes it especially sensitive to geopolitical shifts. Any major trade interruption would carry enormous global consequences. The U.S.-China trade relationship remains one of the world's most critical. Despite tariffs and political friction, mutual reliance persists across key industrial sectors. Tech restrictions aim to slow China's advancements in AI and supercomputing. These measures limit access to advanced chips and cloud infrastructure, essential for cutting-edge development. China is accelerating its self-sufficiency strategy. Massive investments target semiconductors, clean energy, food security, and advanced manufacturing to reduce dependence on foreign suppliers. De-dollarization efforts are gaining momentum, especially among emerging economies. China supports alternative payment systems to reduce the world's reliance on U.S.-controlled dollar networks. Since 2018, both nations have escalated financial and technological measures. Tariffs, sanctions, and investment controls now define a prolonged era of strategic economic rivalry. The United States is working with allies to build secure supply chains. Partnerships in chips, batteries, and technology aim to counterbalance China's manufacturing dominance. China strengthens alliances across the global south through energy investments, infrastructure projects, and diplomatic cooperation, expanding its economic influence beyond Asia. Both nations face internal challenges. The U.S. struggles with inflation and political tension, while China battles structural economic issues that threaten long-term stability. The world may be entering a financial Cold War.
Two competing financial systems now shape global trade, investment, and technology in increasingly divided ways.
The global economy is gradually polarizing. Nations align with either US-led financial rules or China's expanding economic ecosystem, creating long-term structural competition.
The future depends on choices made today. The US and China could sustain cooperation, intensify competition, or confront a deeper economic divide with global implications. In the end, neither nation can truly dominate without consequences. The global economy is interconnected, and stability will depend on managing this rivalry with caution and strategy.